Hi, so today I'm going to go over a drawing I made of Ryu from the video game series Street Fighter made by Capcom. As you can see in my drawing, he looks very exaggerated here, like with his big muscles that almost makes him look like a monster, kind of almost. His clothing's flying, in the wind. It's also torn up. He's got this exaggerated expression with his mouth wide open, and then his pose itself it's pretty exaggerated as well. Okay, so let's look at some official illustrations from Capcom for Wii U. Now I didn't have to look at these or reference these before I did my drawing, but that's just because I played these games before and I know this character very well. But one thing I did want to get into my drawing is this kind of cross-hatching style on the background here and also on his body. That's just something I remember seeing in the past. So I wanted that in my drawing. And here's a darker version of Ryu. Character's name is Evil Ryu. And then he's just a more powerful version of him, and that's the kind of influence I wanted on my drawing as well. Just a more powerful, a bigger, more muscular Ryu, I guess. So here you can see a rough drawing that I started out with. Just very quickly, I draw in lines. I'm pretty rough, but just to get a feel of his pose. His movement, his hands, where his head needs to be, where's his face facing, the clothing, how does it move, and also it's supposed to be pretty rough. I like it pretty rough at this stage. It's just to get a feel of it. So there's that. Once I like that, it's kind of a made that layer a little bit lighter so I can draw on top of it with the black on a separate layer. Now on the layer on top is still kind of rough. I'm still here I'm still trying to figure out how he looks. See, as you can see, I had to figure out his head, his face, where it's facing, and then his muscles and stuff like that. Because in the rough drawing, it's just it's just pretty rough. You just could get a feel of it, but not like the actual details. So here on this second more refined sketch, I'm just trying to get a feel of where things need to be. I had to figure out where they're supposed to be, and then everything's connected and not they're not disjointed, that kind of thing. But it's still a rough sketch. It's not the lines are not refined or anything, and they don't need to be. So he looks a little bit cartoony, and that's intentional. But the important thing I try to do with this here is the muscle. It's I make sure it's based on real human anatomy, so it's not totally made up, but it's just an exaggeration instead of being made up. It always looks better that way. Also at this stage is when I try to figure out how the shapes and the forms are connected together. It is pretty important to me for like the clothing that he's wearing. It's because I want to use that to create a sense of movement in his body. And at this point, I think the pencil is pretty much done, and then that's when I moved on to the inking. So here I'm just as usual, I put my my drawing, the sketch drawing here. I load opacity, so it's lighter, so I can put another layer on top of it to do the ink. So yeah, I just start out on his head. I don't know why I started on the head, but I suppose it could be a good place to start out on, because the head, it's more delicate. When I start out doing something, I my hands get tired over time, so it's probably a good thing to work on the face first, the face and the head, because my hands are not tired at that point. Right, just starting out. It can be pretty rough because my style of the for this one, yeah, I go for a more gritty, a more rough look. A lot of blacks, areas that's filled with just black. The the way I do my inking on my own drawings, I add a lot of details to my drawings at this stage that I usually don't do it on the rough drawing. It's just how I work on my own stuff. A lot of details I tend to save it for this time doing the inking, just because there's just, to me it feels like at least for my own work, it's easier at this stage to add some details, just because it's easier to see where things are. As I said earlier, that my pencil drawing, that it's pretty rough, pretty loose. So it's not as easy to figure, like to put in details at in that stage. So I save it for inking, like here, where I actually do have a lot of ideas, or a lot of space to put in the details, and I can see where things are going better, because it's not as rough now. Although my style is with this one, or this, the inking is still kind of rough compared to what I normally would do. And actually, starting out with his arm here and his head area, I draw it more carefully, like as it goes, the lower it gets to his body, seems to it's rougher it gets in terms of drawing, the line quality and the brushwork. I think it's just how it is with. If you look at his body, there's a lot of energy going on with his clothing, and his leg, that's his foot that's in front. There's a lot of energy going on with his hands. So when I got to that part of it, I think that kind of energy has, I translated that to my line work. Like the quality of the lines, how rough it gets. So I use the roughness of the lines and the brushwork to indicate a lot of like a lot of energy and also a lot of like movement. That's always a good thing. I want to talk about movement actually in drawing. To me, at least, I think having any kind of indication in the drawing with of movement, it helps to bring the life the drawing to life, just to add a little bit of life to the drawing. I use this one as an example. Like his hair here that I'm drawing, the hair is flying back just a little bit, and that is because he's doing in his hand he's I don't even know what you call it. He's doing a fireball movement with his hand, but it's more fireball in Street Fighter is it's an attack, and what it is that he's gathering some kind of energy, like some kind of power in his hand. Whatever, it's not real, but that means his hair is moving back. Like it's kind of like it would be like wind blowing back his hair, and that's what it is like. And which is he's what I'm drawing there, his bandana back there, it's also kind of flying a little bit. It's also an indication of that. So there's a lot of indication of movement, and that is important to a lot of drawings I do. Even drawings that's somewhat static. Let's say this is a character standing. There in real life, it's very difficult for things to be like be still. Like let's say let's say this is a person standing. There's folds and other things. Like let's say there's clothing. There's there's foldings. There's all kinds of things that indicates like how his arms is posed and and all that. I use those things to my advantage in most of my drawings, and this one here is more extreme. It's like all spelled out. Like I mean, it's very in your face kind of thing. It's not subtle, because what he's doing is not subtle also. So that goes with that. But I enjoy that. That's that's something also. Like I said, it's very good for to add some life to the drawing, to the character. So there I'm putting in a lot of shadow. Actually, that's the area that has a lot of shadow because you're looking into under his the clothing, the underside of it, and I use a lot of cross hatching on this drawing. I have kind of stopped. I used to do a lot of cross hatching when I was like longer time ago, like when I was younger. I kind of have stopped it. I'm just kind of stopped it doing that. Over time, it's just I rely on less cross hatching, but just like line work. So cross hatching is something I have not done like for a long time. Not that I haven't done cross hatching for a long time, but more I mean to say relying on cross hatching. I haven't done that. Like these joints here, most of it is cross hatching and then some line work, right? But I actually quite enjoyed it here for this style of drawing. I think it's working well just because it goes with the theme of the his movement and everything. Like here on his foot here, it's a lot of suggested line, like the brushwork. I don't go in too much detail here. So also one thing that's important, I think I have seen drawings, and I have been guilty of that myself, but knowing when to when to add detail and when to not add details, it's important. I have seen drawings, and as I said, I have been guilty of that as well, my own drawings, where there's just details everywhere, and that will make the drawings less successful, because you want to be able, you need to control how much detail goes into the drawing itself, but then also where do you put in your details and where do you not put in your details. That's important. It's you need to have a rhythm throughout the drawing, and not like details are everywhere. It needs to be more controlled. For example, I'll give you a very straight example. Like the foot I was drawing, it's very roughed in. Now there's some details in there, but it's just not. It's not refined. If you compare it to what I did on his arm, on his face, the details there are more like readable. It's so in a way, I took on more details on his foot there just because it's I want to show movement there and not so much so much detail there. The more detail there are, like in this case, on his, let's say on the foot, the more static it's gonna make it look like I want to create movement. So in this case, it means less detail on that area. Cross hatching here, as you can see, I use it to do a lot of shadow work, and it's something. Cross hatching it's a different. It can be something that what do you call it? It's a different subject itself. It's so complicated to go over in this, but roughly and knowing how to knowing how to create different tones with the night, like with the cross hatching, it's important to do the shadow here. because my shadows, they're not one tone. You know, the cross hatching kind of varies. The angle of the lines and all that creates different tones. My lines that I use for the cross hatching and also on the line work, like the brush work, the brush looking kind of line work. It's they follow the forms, the folding of the cloth, and then also, let's say the arms or whatever, right? It follows the lines tend to, I'm not gonna say 100% of the time, but most of the time it follows the shape and the form of the body and the cloth. That's kind of an important thing, like knowing how to draw the line. I have seen so many people draw cross hatching, where they just draw it in as like a shadow or something like that, and they don't follow like the structure of the body, and they can flatten out the whatever they're drawing. Meaning they can be less, they can look less three-dimensional and more like just like a flat image. And here I'm just drawing the dust. Just playing. One thing I do want to also touch on. You see how I'm drawing these all these lines, these straight lines. This drawing is done on a Cintiq, right? And Wacom Cintiq in Photoshop. But with the way I set up my Cintiq, I'm able to rotate it around. But it's just kind of a hassle to I can rotate it, but I'm drawing so many lines, and this whole piece of artwork has maybe like 75, maybe 70% it's cross hatching. What I want to touch on is people like I have watched so many videos, people inking, doing like ink work. Not comics comics and also not comics. It's always suggested that if your hand draws naturally in one direction, that you rotate your drawing so you can draw the lines better at different angles. So all this cross hatching here I've done for most of this, all this that you're seeing here, even what you're seeing right now, that's actually I didn't rotate my Cintiq, right? It's stationary, and I'm just drawing it with my hand, like drawing lines in different directions. And I think that's important. I trained it that way by myself, but it doesn't mean that I won't rotate. Like if I'm drawing a piece of paper, I won't rotate it and draw my lines that way. So I mean, I do sometimes, and my hand, obviously, like everybody's hand, my hand does draw lines in maybe in one direction better than other directions, but I'm able to draw like lines in like in different directions. I don't only rely on like rotating the paper. It can be useful, but sometimes it's too much. It slows down the work too much. If I can draw it faster and without rotating my paper and the result, it's not too bad. Especially if it was just like done digitally, like here, then I may not rotate it and just keep drawing it that way. I mean, if it works, there's something like the dust here. It's if I don't draw a perfect line, if the line's not perfectly straight, it's okay. I mean, it's just a background thing. I am I care about a lot of my the quality of my lines, but it's not too bad if I mean, it's just I don't think it's too bad. So yeah, this just that's something I would suggest. Yes, rotate the paper or rotate the tablet or whatever to draw lines in the direction your hand most comfortable with. But it's also a good training to be able to draw your lines in different directions without like just naturally with your hand. I sometimes it just makes doing the drawing a little bit more interesting. It would be a little bit harder, but you know. I did spend a lot of time on this part, huh? The I had a lot of difficulty with not difficulty, but just the way I wanted that background to look. It would take a long time to do, and it's just because it was done with just cost saturation there. Yeah, so that's pretty much the inking that made for this piece. Well, it's probably maybe 75%. It's just like cost saturation, I suppose. And it's yeah, it's been fun. It was very fun. Well, I hope you enjoy my video, and I also hope that you learn something from it that you can apply to your own work and have fun with it. And I have the coloring process in a separate video. So if you want to go ahead and watch that, I will have that link to this at the end here. Thank you for watching. See you next time.